What's up guys, Irish Turtle here, and in today's video I want to talk to you guys about potentially which counter-terrorist units we might be seeing for the second year of Siege DLC. So obviously Ubisoft announced that we will be seeing a second year of DLC and that we can expect operators to be coming from Spain, Hong Kong, Poland and Korea. So I decided that in today's video I'd do some speculation based on research on which CTUs we might be seeing in year 2. Obviously, as I said, these are just guesses and we could find that I'm completely wrong, but hopefully you might agree with some of my suggestions for potential groups. And I'm also going to be explaining why I think each group I have picked is the most likely group, so hopefully that way you can get behind my reasoning and understand where I'm coming from. So firstly, let's start off with the first country coming in February, which is Spain. Now, with a little research, I found the most likely group to appear as the Spanish CTU, at least in my opinion, is the Grupo Especial de Operaciones. I apologise if I absolutely butchered that, I probably did. But in English, that means Special Operations Group, and they are commonly known by the abbreviation GEOS. That's GEOS. I'm not going to attempt to even try and pronounce that the Spanish way. I'll just butcher that completely. But the GEOs have a response capabilities and are responsible for VIP protection, as well as countering and responding to terrorism in Spain. So it wouldn't be a surprise to see this group pop up. One of the main reasons I think this group is likely to appear is because when they are trained, the GEOs go through 4 areas of training: instrumental, judicial, socio-professional, and police science and techniques. Now this might not mean a lot to you, but once I go through them, I hope you might start to understand why they're my pick for the Spanish CTU. Now, police science and techniques features high-speed and off-road driving, lock-picking techniques, abseiling and climbing techniques, maneuvers with helicopters, transmissions, explosives, and knowledge about terrorist groups. Now, if you're anything like me, once you heard that, you probably thought, well, they'd fit right in with the other CTUs and what they do in Siege, so, they're probably a safe pick. Now, the other areas of their training, while less relevant directly, include the instrumental area, which deals with physical aptitude, such as marksmanship, obstacle courses, martial arts, physical fitness, swimming, sniping, diving, and proficiency with motorcycles. Now, while it doesn't necessarily fit in directly, essentially they're a well-trained Special Forces unit, again, which would fit in well with the rest of the groups that we have. The other 2 remaining areas they're trained in focus on rights of terrorist groups and exchanging experience with members of similar groups from other countries. So from that, we also know they have interaction with at least some of the groups already in Siege, and they sort of learnt techniques from them. So after reading kind of all of that, I thought, well, it's a pretty safe bet to assume they're going to be one of the CTUs that we're going to see brought in. Now let's take a look at Year 2's Season 2, which is Hong Kong. Now, when I looked into this, there were only 2 notable groups I could find who were in any kind of position to make their way onto my list. The first was the Airport Security Unit, which, to be honest, seemed much less likely when compared to the Special Duties Unit, often referred to as the SDU. Now, the SDU are one of the few Special Forces units in the world that are trifibious, meaning they're comprised of land, naval, and air force troops who are trained in all the fields. So as a whole, these guys are pretty damn well trained and are equipped with the knowledge to deal with plenty of situations. If that wasn't enough for you to think this unit was going to be picked, they were formally trained by the SAS before being handed over to Hong Kong. So it would be a pretty safe bet these guys will be most likely the most likely CTU to make an appearance. And the final nail in the proverbial coffin for this group being the Hong Kong CTU is the group's primary focus in Hong Kong is to deal with counter-terrorism, hostage rescue and armed crime. The reason it's armed crime is because in Hong Kong, similar to Britain, they don't have a lot of guns, so their normal police aren't well equipped for that sort of thing, unlike in America, where every policeman is given a gun to deal with gun crime, as it's such a regular thing. But that aside, if I think you'd have to agree that with the amount of things they cover, these guys are probably going to be who we get in May of Year 2, especially if you compare what these guys do to the objectives you carry out in Siege. They kind of match quite nicely, so it's kind of safe to assume they're going to be the CTU that we see. Now, when it comes to Season 3's Polish CTU, I really didn't struggle to pick. The CTU we're going to be seeing, in my opinion, which I can say it with about 99% sureness, is we're going to be seeing GROM, named in honor of the Silent Unseen Army, of the Silent Unseen of the Home Army. Now, this did make a lot of sense to me, but I got a nice little history lesson when I actually looked this up. But essentially, the Silent Unseen of the Home Army, for those of you who are confused, are the Polish guerrilla fighters who were trained in Britain and parachuted into occupied Poland from 1941 onwards. They basically led the resistance movement against Nazi occupation in Poland with the help of some French resistance fighters and other Polish members who wanted to get rid of them. They're considered the Tier 1 Polish Special Forces, and their main roles are special operations and unconventional warfare, including things such as anti-terrorism operations and projection of force behind enemy lines. So they're pretty much badasses in their own right. They come from a history of people that did absolutely amazing things, so I kind of thought, you know what, they're probably the best pick. They were also modelled on Delta Force, SEAL Team 6 and the SAS, so I'd say these guys are probably who we're going to see. There isn't much dispute in it really, unless maybe there are some groups that I haven't heard of, but like I said, that's pretty much my guess. Now we'll move on to Season 4, and in my opinion, the hardest group to pin down as a whole. When it came to looking into this, I found two specific groups that I considered as possibilities for the new CTU. Firstly, we have the Special Forces Brigade of the Republic of Korea, also known as ROK. Now, these guys are 6 special brigades and 1 overseas brigade, considered to be some of Korea's best soldiers and fighters, and are responsible for tasks such as guerrilla warfare, special reconnaissance, unconventional warfare, direct action, collecting information in enemy territory, and conducting special missions. So I thought these guys might hold some weight in being the potential final CTU. As a whole, they're made up of 6 different brigades. Each brigade is given a different special name based on an animal. All the members of the groups are comprised of volunteers who go through training in high-skilled weapons handling, parachuting, as well as a host of other physical and psychological tests. So I considered them to be able to be on this list. While they're not one specific group, it's kind of like several brigades. I can't speak. They were on my list. Now, the second group I considered from a list were the 707th Special Missions Battalion. Now, these guys, I'm not sure if they actually fit into the list of battalions in the ROK. I'm not 100% sure on that. I couldn't quite find definitive answer on that. But the 707th were formed specifically as a counter-terrorist unit as a response to the Munich Olympic massacre. The reason for this was South Korea was to hold the next Olympics, and they didn't want a similar thing to happen to them, so they basically went out and they formed the 707th as their primary counter-terrorism unit. Now, basically, they are considered South Korea's, as I said, primary CTU, and are tasked with conducting urban counter-terrorism and also constitute the Army's quick reaction force for emergencies, so if anything happens in Korea, they are meant to be the first guys on the scene. They're also one of the few special forces groups to employ women who are used in counter-terror operations where the presence of a woman is not seen as a threat to a terrorist. Didn't quite understand that as a logic, but fair enough. The group themselves are nicknamed White Tiger, which again kind of fits in with the ROK's way of naming battalions after animals. So again, it kind of led me to think maybe they fit into that as a whole. But to be honest, a little more research, I did feel like the 707th specifically were the more likely group to appear on the list. The reasons behind this is that the 707th actually trains with a host of other CTUs, including the FBI HRT, SAS, GIGN, J2F2, and the Hong Kong SDU, along with a host of other groups. So I'd be more than confident in saying these guys will be the counter-terrorist unit, as they train with some of the CTUs that are actually obviously in siege. So it's a pretty good bet they'll turn up, and also because they train with the SDU, it kind of confirmed that they were going to be the guys that turn up from Hong Kong as well. But like I said, I could still be wrong. Another thing that I found from my research, which is really awesome, is that there might be a potential map idea based in how the South Korean Special Forces actually are. Now, if you look them up, you can find out that they actually have, the 707th actually own and operate a multi-complex counter-terrorism training site for the Republic of Korea Army Special Warfare Command. It's a bit of a mouthful, but basically, at that location, they host multinational counter-terrorism training events for other special forces to attend. So I'd say, that could be a potential location the siege to take as a map. Considering we already have Hereford Base, it might be quite nice to see another take on a Special Forces training grounds as another potential map. Let me know what you guys think of that in the comments below. I think it's quite an interesting idea. I'd love to see another group's training grounds as opposed to just the SAS's, but obviously, we don't know that for sure. But I think with all the research based around the 707th, they are probably my surefire bet as to who we're going to see. Although we might see, as I said, the Rock as their special forces, but it could be that the 707th fits into that. I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, that was the one that I didn't manage to pin down. But that's pretty much my list. So obviously, as I said, we'll just quickly recap. Spain is the GOs, the Grupo Especial de Operaciones. The Hong Kong is the SDU. The Polish is GROM. That's pretty much a given. GROM is going to be who we get. I can't think of anyone else. And Korea, as I said, my bet is the 707th. And that's the list. Now, again, I do just want to point out, all of the groups I talked about are completely done with 100% speculation, with a little bit of just quick research into the CTUs. I might be completely wrong. I might be bang on 100% correct. We can't really know until the year is out. But as a whole, I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to give me your thoughts below on which groups you think might be chosen. If you agree with my list, if you don't agree with my list, let me know who you think could replace the ones I've suggested. As always, if you like the video, feel free to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends who you might be debating this with. Also, if you enjoy Siege content, feel free to subscribe if you're new here. I post regular Siege content on my channel. Also, as a quick sidebar, if you like the idea of these CTUs I've mentioned and you'd like to sort of have a little bit more in-depth information, feel free to let me know in the comments below. I'd be more than happy if enough of you are interested to do a video specifically on each of the 4 groups I've mentioned as a little bit of a speculation video. But other than that, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.